The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
The White House and the president himself have been in touch with lawmakers all weekend long to get this bill passed, and they are working very hard to do so. It remains a top priority for the president.
The big, beautiful bill finally on the floor of the Senate, but what are the chances it can pass the House again to get to the president's desk? Also, ambush in Idaho, 2 firefighters dead, another in the hospital. What we now know about who may have planned the attack and pulled the trigger. Social Security payment cuts, why some recipients could receive just half of their normal checks this month. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Good Monday evening. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. We are so glad you're here with us. And right now, the U.S. Senate continues with their day-long vote-a-rama of the One Big Beautiful Bill. It is a series of amendment votes to the reconciliation budget legislation as Republicans look for a path across the finish line and Democrats look for just a few GOP holdouts to derail the entire thing. Votes could continue into the night.
This is about extending that tax relief so the same people that benefited from it back in 2017 and for the last 8 years don't end up having a colossal, massive tax increase hitting them in the face come January 1.
Senate Democrats will bring one amendment after the other again and again and again. Republicans have said they don't want to cut Medicaid. Today, we'll give you the chance.
President Trump wants a bill to his desk by Friday, Independence Day, but that is an uphill task for Republicans. For more about what's actually in the bill and the amendments offer, national correspondent Kayla Gaskins.
The One Big Beautiful Bill getting a lot of big, bold backlash on Capitol Hill as lawmakers hammer out a final version. The massive piece of legislation aims to simultaneously reduce government spending, slashing the deficit, while also cutting taxes. One avenue to achieve this, GOP leadership pushing for reforms to crack down on what they see as waste, fraud, and abuse in one of the government's biggest spending buckets, Medicaid, the government-backed health care for low-income and disabled Americans.
You have people on the rolls today who are here illegally, you have people on the rolls here today who are not eligible for this program.
One reform is adding in work requirements.
If you're an able-bodied adult, not disabled, not a child, and you don't have any children under 14, you have to work 20 hours a week to continue Medicaid. I think that's eminently reasonable.
Critics, though, argue these reforms are actually cuts that will strip health care from some of the most vulnerable Americans.
How can any senator go home and tell their constituents, I'm sorry, I took away your health care because I wanted to give tax breaks to billionaires?
Concern and unease coming from both parties. North Carolina Republican Senator Tom Tillis is heavily against the changes.
Now, Republicans are about to make a mistake on health care and betraying a promise.
After attacks from President Trump for not supporting the bill, Tillis announcing he won't seek re-election. A big concern from those opposed is how this bill will impact rural hospitals. In an effort to quell those fears, Senate Republicans increasing the Rural Hospital Relief Fund from $15 billion to $25 billion.
And Dee Dee, the House will have to approve the Senate's changes before the bill can be sent to President Trump's desk for signature.
Yeah, we're watching for those potential changes here. How is the House reacting to the changes going on in the Senate regarding this bill?
Yeah, so Speaker Mike Johnson has his work cut out for him still to keep his caucus on board with this bill and the version they'll eventually get handed by the Senate. Johnson did hold a call this afternoon with a group of GOP Congress members who are concerned about the Senate's version. Dr. Mehmet Oz, from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, he's the administrator of that center. He was reportedly on that call. Now, Johnson's issues don't end there. He also has to keep members like Chip Roy on board who think the bill, even the initial bill, doesn't go far enough for spending cuts. Dee Dee.
Lawmakers bracing for a long night ahead. Live from Washington, D.C., Kayla Gaskins, thank you. The accused sniper in an Idaho ambush of firefighters has been identified as 20-year-old Wes Rowley. Yesterday, Rowley is said to have lit a brush fire on Canfield Mountain near Coeur d'Alene before shooting at responding firefighters, killing 2 and injuring another. Rowley was found dead. Authorities say that based on the trajectory of the shots fired and the firearm used and found at the scene, they believe Rowley acted alone. Residents of Coeur d'Alene lined the highway to honor those 2 firefighters killed in the ambush. Many community members stood in silence and waved flags for the procession, which transported the firefighters from Kootenai Health to Spokane, Washington. Their identities have not been revealed. The 3rd firefighter shot has since gotten out of surgery and is in stable condition. 320,000 people in Southern California are warned to keep their windows closed until at least 6 p.m. Pacific time tonight. This is smoke from 2 wildfires near Riverside County starting yesterday, impacts the entire area. The bigger of the 2, the Wolf Fire, is 1,400 acres, 0% contained, and it is prompting mandatory evacuations as CAL FIRE fights this fire. Hazmat fire crews are cleaning up a fuel spill at the site of a train derailment in Wisconsin that happened this morning. Hartford's fire chief said 3 Wisconsin Southern employees were hospitalized for minor injuries. He said around 19 cars derailed and a few thousand gallons of diesel fuel leaked out. The cleanup is expected to take a couple of days. Kilmar Abrego Garcia remains behind bars as a federal judge delayed his release from jail again. Garcia's attorneys asked for the defendant to remain in custody because they say they don't trust the DOJ, citing contradictory statements over whether or not Garcia would be immediately deported upon release. Abrego Garcia is being held in Tennessee as he awaits trial for human smuggling.
Tomorrow, President Trump will travel to the great state of Florida to attend the opening of a new illegal alien detention center located at Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport.
Well, you just heard it from the press secretary there. The White House has confirmed President Trump will go to Alligator Alcatraz, Florida's newest migrant detention center in the Everglades. Supporters say its surroundings will help minimize costs of security, while critics are protesting the environmental impacts, as well as some Native American leaders who say the land is sacred. Breaking it all down, here's national correspondent Christine Frizzell.
An abandoned airfield in the middle of Florida's Everglades, now teeming with trailers, trucks, and tents. Just the latest detention center for migrants set to hold at least 5,000 detainees.
The facility is in the heart of the Everglades and will be informally known as Alligator Alcatraz. There is only one road leading in, and the only way out is a one-way flight.
The name Alligator Alcatraz based on the facility's location in the middle of the swamp, which is why Florida's Attorney General calls it an efficient, low-cost opportunity.
You don't need to invest that much in the perimeter. People get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide.
The Department of Homeland Security posting this picture on X. The prison set to open this week following the use of other facilities like Guantanamo Bay and the notorious prison in El Salvador, where hundreds were sent in March, all meant to send a message to those living in the country illegally. Over the weekend, several came out to protest the facility.
They're using sacred land for such a sinister and vile, end goal.
Environmental groups filing this lawsuit to block the facility from opening this week as scheduled, arguing it could threaten the wetlands, critical wildlife habitat, and protected species, and that the site is important for drinking water supply and Everglades water quality.
It is an area that we have invested as a nation billions of dollars for protecting our natural environment, our water supply. We've asked for a very thorough review of what would be the impacts on our environment.
Alligator Alcatraz is estimated to cost about $450 million a year to run and will largely be paid for by the federal government. The state of Florida expected to be reimbursed by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
New developments. The Trump administration is threatening to cut all federal funding from Harvard University for failing to protect Jewish students. A federal task force accuses Harvard of being a willful participant in anti-Semitic harassment, saying it violated the Civil Rights Act. Harvard says it strongly disagrees with the findings and that it is committed to addressing anti-Semitism. 324 people have been charged in the largest coordinated healthcare fraud takedown in the history of the Department of Justice. According to the DOJ, these people submitted roughly $14.6 billion in false claims to Medicaid, Medicare, and other health care programs. They are accused of participating in transnational criminal networks based in Russia, Eastern Europe, Pakistan, and other foreign countries.
Today marks a decisive moment in our fight to protect American taxpayers from fraudsters and to defend the integrity of America's healthcare system.
Among the 324 people were 96 medical professionals in the operations. The FBI says the scheme resulted in $3 billion in unlawful payouts and the illegal distribution on 15 million pills. The FBI also seized $245 million. The Supreme Court is ordering appellate judges in 4 states to re-examine certain rulings in favor of transgender people. Today, the justices tossed rulings from Idaho, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and West Virginia related to medical treatments and birth certificates. The High Court didn't take up cases from Arizona, Idaho, and West Virginia related to trans athletes, but could say on Thursday or later whether it will in the next term. The Supreme Court will tackle a campaign finance case in a few months. Republicans want to remove limits on how much party committees can spend on political candidates. They argue limits violate the First Amendment and result in more money for super PACs. Opponents want to limit money for politics and the appearance of corruption. The High Court upheld the limits in 2001, so it would have to overturn that. The sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs is now in the hands of the jury, who left for the day. Shortly after deliberations began this morning, the judge dismissed concerns from the jury that one juror couldn't follow the instructions. The music mogul faces federal charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. Deliberations will continue tomorrow. Breaking news, accused killer Bryan Kohberger will plead guilty to all charges in the 2022 killings of 4 University of Idaho students as part of a plea deal, according to a letter to victims' families. Kohberger will avoid the death penalty, but be sentenced to 4 life sentences and waive his right to appeal, a court hearing set for this Wednesday. Coming up, the American ally that President Trump says is not getting a trade deal as the July 9th deadline gets even closer. Then, satellite images reveal new activity at a notorious Iranian nuclear facility that was hit by U.S. bunker busters. Then, why a Rhode Island police officer was arrested and what residents had to say about it. We'll be right back in 90 seconds. As we come back on the air, the White House confirms trade talks with Canada will resume after negotiations temporarily broke down over the weekend. The two countries are aiming to reach a deal that results in lower tariffs by July 21st. As the National News Desk, Atra El-Nashar reports, most other countries are up against a tighter deadline.
President Trump's 90-day pause on what he calls reciprocal tariffs is almost up.
There's going to be a flurry going into the final week as the pressure increases.
With the exception of China, America's trading partners have been up against a July 9th deadline to negotiate new terms of trade with the Trump administration or risk being hit with their individualized double-digit tariffs the president announced on April 2nd, or Liberation Day.
We talked to many of the countries, and we're just going to tell them what they have to pay to do business in the United States. I'd like to just send letters out to everybody. Congratulations, you're paying 25%.
The first country to fall in that category, Japan. The president announcing on social media Monday afternoon, will just be sending them a letter. The administration narrowing their focus on America's other largest trading partners. So far, the White House has only signed one firm trade deal with the United Kingdom. A short-term agreement has been reached with China as they attempt to negotiate a full deal by the end of summer.
We're going to be trading in China. That's going to come a little bit down the road, but we're going to be trading in China.
China's going to be paying a lot of tariffs, but we have a big deficit. They understand that.
For months, the president and his trade team have been hinting they're close to a deal with India, a country they accuse of ripping off the U.S. with high tariffs.
We're looking to get a full trade barrier dropping, which is unthinkable. And I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but as of this moment, we've agreed to that.
Negotiations with the European Union have been especially complex. France's foreign minister calling for a deadline extension, telling a French newspaper, "I would rather have a good deal than a bad deal on July 9th.
The president recently said he doesn't think extensions past July 9th are necessary. He'll meet with his trade team this week, and in the coming days, we expect to learn which other countries, like Japan, will also get letters instead of trade deals. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
Beginning tomorrow, some Social Security recipients will be getting smaller payments. According to the Social Security Administration, it overpaid millions of dollars in recent years. Now, in an effort to recoup the money, the SSA says it will start withholding half of benefit payments to those who overpaid. That's up from the previous withholding amount of 10% of a person's incoming payment. Recipients can ask for a waiver if they cannot repay the money or if they weren't at fault. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu will visit President Trump at the White House next Monday, according to U.S. officials. It comes as Trump increases his efforts to help bring about a ceasefire and hostage agreement and end the war in Gaza. The Trump administration says Iran's nuclear program was devastated by U.S. bombs. Now, Iran is sifting through the rubble. Satellite images show vehicles, excavation equipment, and a crane at Iran's notorious Fordow facility. Work seems to be focused near the ventilation shafts and craters caused by the strikes. President Trump says he wouldn't hesitate to hit Iran again if there's evidence of attempts to rebuild uranium enrichment to bomb-making levels. An 82-year-old woman who was injured in the firebomb attack in Boulder, Colorado earlier this month has died from her wounds, according to prosecutors. As many as 29 people were injured in the attack. Karen Diamond is the first and only one killed. Egyptian national Mohammed Solomon will soon be indicted on updated charges. Last week, he pleaded not guilty to federal hate crimes on top of the state crimes he's facing. His next hearing is set for July 15th. And the 26-show U.S. tour for British rap duo Bob Dylan has been canceled as the State Department has revoked their visas. Over the weekend, this at a British music festival, frontman Bobby Dylan led a chant of death to the IDF in front of 200,000 people. Dylan was also dropped by their talent agency, and now British police have formally opened a criminal investigation into these calls for violence that also includes the Irish rap band Kneecap. New York City's Democratic mayoral primary has shaken up the political landscape. Zohran Mamdani is dividing his own party with Democratic socialist policies while also becoming the new favorite target of Republicans. The National News Desk, Matt Gelka reports from Washington.
I will be your Democratic nominee.
Democratic socialist Zoran Mamdani's upset win in New York City's Democratic mayoral primary has caught the attention of both parties. The president is already threatening funding.
He's a communist. I think it's very bad for New York. If he does get in, I'm going to be president, and he's going to have to do the right thing, or they're not getting any money.
Mamdani's policies are also receiving scrutiny as he gets closer to running America's biggest city.
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality.
His campaign centers around affordability. Part of his official platform includes shifting the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods.
Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed. I'm just naming things as they are. And ultimately, the thing that motivates me in this is to create a system of fairness.
New Jersey's Republican candidate for governor invited New Yorkers opposing Mamdani's tax policies to cross the bridge and move. And the mayor of Boca Raton, Florida, says people and businesses are more than welcome to move further south. While Republicans have been eager to make Mamdani's policies the new direction of the Democratic Party, high-ranking Democrats have held off endorsements. New York's Governor Kathy Hochul and both Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries have yet to endorse.
We don't really know each other well. Our districts don't overlap. I have never had a substantive conversation with him. And so that's the next step in terms of this process, to be able to sit down.
Some New York Democrats in competitive congressional districts have abandoned Mamdani out of fears his policies will drag them down. Others have tried to distance themselves on his globalize the intifada comments on Israel, with Jeffries saying it's not acceptable phrasing and that Mamdani would need to convince Jewish New Yorkers he'll take on anti-Semitism. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Coming up, the results of a major organized crime takedown operation in California. We'll be back right after this. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start in Texas, where a mayor weighs in on his city's Pride Festival.
Thousands of people showed up to this year's Taylor Pride celebration, but it was missing one thing, the mayoral Pride proclamation. Melanie Goss with Taylor Pride says it was disappointing, but it's not going to stop people from participating.
Is it disappointing that he didn't give the proclamation? Absolutely, but we don't need his approval. We don't need his blessing to be here. We don't need that to exist.
Mayor Dwayne Arreola recently doubled down on his refusal to issue one, saying on Facebook, quote, "The city council is a nonpartisan body, and it's my strong belief that we should remain focused on representing all residents."
Kim Sanchez, chief of the Fresno office of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of California, laid out the score Friday from a massive gang sweep operation across the Central Valley. Operation Shock Collar.
We're here to announce the dismantling of a violent criminal street gang that's a faction of the Bulldogs that was comprised of Huron Dog Life, Coalinga Dog Life, and San Joaquin Ruthless Perros that has been terrorizing our communities for far too long.
According to the Fresno County Sheriff's Office, 92 people were charged, 63 taken down yesterday alone, and 38 charged with federal offenses.
A Providence police officer new to the job arrested Friday morning after police say she was involved in a drug raid in Pawtucket.
It's kind of crazy seeing a police officer distribute drugs. I'm baffled.
This is Destiny Vieira, now a former Providence police officer.
When you see a young person that had the opportunity of a lifetime to make a difference, and unfortunately, because of certain judgments that they make, it taints the work.
Pawtucket police won't tell us where in Pawtucket the raid happened.
I mean, I wish we had more details.
But Providence Police Chief Oscar Perez says that officer is off the force.
Coming up, new titles given to basketball stars ahead of the WNBA All-Star Game. We'll have it all right after this. Basketball stars Caitlin Clark and Ephesian Collier just got new fan-appointed titles, captains of next month's WNBA All-Star Game. Both received over 1 million votes from fans, meaning they'll draft fellow starters next Tuesday. This comes just before their teams, the Indiana Fever and Minnesota Lynx, face off tomorrow in the Commissioner's Cup Final. This, as the WNBA's commissioner says demand for women's basketball has never been higher. The WNBA planning to grow to 18 teams. The league says Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia are all set to join by 2030, pending approval by the NBA and WNBA Board of Governors. And that is going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening as we check on the latest developments of the big, beautiful bill votes in the Senate. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tonight at 10.